Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, Nintendo Wii U, PC, Steam, and of course Nintendo 3DS. So, last time we actually completely dealt with every single part of the Arcade Cup, and I've pretty much dominated it by the forms of the mirror version of that particular cup, just because I was pretty much in first place in every single courses, so yeah, there's no need to ask for it. See, Fernando. Today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be continuing on and moving on to the true final cup in the entire Grand Prix mode in the forms of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and that will have to be by the forms of the Classic Cup, but this time around though, we're about to be going for this particular cup in mirror version of that cup. So even then though, same courses as last time, but even then though, except the fact that we now need to able to stumble across the mirror version of that particular tracks themselves. Even though generally speaking that we've already done Sunshine Tour from the forms of the World Tour mode, so even if that's to be the case, then there's no need to able to actually unlock that for any time. So either way, let's go ahead and play as the glorious Sonic the Hedgehog to able to pick us him for last. And let's just say we might as well able to go for balance mode. So even then though, that way we could able to go ahead and just use him for last for the entirety of the forms of the Grand Prix mode, basically. Oh yeah, I realized about something, is that once again, my Xbox 360 system just seems to go pretty unstable at this point, because even then, what happens is the fact that my character, Alex Kidd, doesn't seem to pop up these days. But even then, I do need to fix him up though, after the forms of whenever I decide to do the true finale of this game's Let's Play, we need to able to show off the extra course by the forms of the DLC track and all that stuff, so I should probably mention more on that until tomorrow. So, because today is the forms of I would say today's is 4th of April today, and turns out that Rio 2, the actual film of Rio 2, I think that film has been came out for about 5 years ago right now, which geez, I wonder why. But well, at least in terms of like how long or how old these films are now. So generally speaking, that again, time really does fly. But even then, though, that's yeah, that's as far as I can usually try and think about for the time. So, anyways, though, not much else to really talk about other than the fact that something new just happened by the forms of that Shadow's favorite anime, according to the forms of the Sonic Forces Twitter. For about, I would say, for almost 2 years ago right now, but the forms about the fact that he did mention about the forms of that peculiar female character with the actual like black and red hair. It's something related to the anime called Kill Let Kill. Basically, that particular anime, we'll actually get ourselves a video game treatment, which I think we already mentioned about this from the past, but turns out there's going to be something new involved, like for instance, that game we're able to actually feature the English dub voices. See, even then though, because unlike any forms of Sword Art Online, the Holo realization, the fact of the matter is though, is that game was entirely in Japanese dub, but this time around though, on Kill Let Kill, the game is going to feature English dub. So even then though, I'm really looking forward to able to see how this will go. But even then though, I might be very curious about that, because, you know, that game is going to be based off from the actual fighting game. So even then, I'm actually really looking forward to able to try that out. If depending of, if the reviews might find it's a little bit too shallow, but even then though, we'll see what happens there when that game decides to come out. And I think, truth be told, I think it does have a release date for, you know, the release date is currently right about now, which I think in forms of in, the 25th, or in this case by the forms of the 25th of July, will actually release that on Japan, and I believe on a day after that particular day, by the forms of the 25th of July. Sorry about a little bit of a dialogue error right there. Between the our country, and especially noticeable with the North Americans release date, is going to be released around during the likes of in the 26th of July. So, which roughly is exactly the same day as the forms of how it does it for the 6-year anniversary of the physical release of New Super Luigi U, specifically for the Wii U. So But even then, I'm really looking forward to trying that out. Even though, it's hard to tell how the fact that which version am I gonna get. But even then, for the PlayStation 4 version, I do understand how the fact that in the PlayStation 4, they do have at least the trophy support. But I don't know about the Switch version though, just because, well, to be honest with you, because of how the fact that it's so hard to tell which version I might go for. So even then, although they play both exactly similar, but even then though, it's just the controls are a little bit more different when it comes to like between PlayStation Company and Nintendo Company. So but anyways though, that's it for that. So even then, generally speaking, that we've already technically unlocked Sunshine Tour mirror version of that track due to the World Tour mode. Now let's go ahead and move along to the forms of Shumpi in Downtown, but this time around though, we're about to be going on mirror mode. So, generally speaking, this is the first time we're ever going to be going for the revisit stages from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing tracks. But this time around though, for the first time ever, that the actual tracks themselves, or the courses themselves, have been completely flipped over. In this case by the forms of the mirrored fashion. So, that probably explains how the fact that with this situation, so even then, you son of a... Sorry, got something on my throat there, just because, wow, there's not much else to really talk about this at this point, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and just get on with this particular track itself, but even then, this is actually going to be the final time we're going to be seeing this environment, so even then, because, Team Sonic Racing should be on its way until, next month or so. And, it's going to be based around for most likely focusing on Sonic courses. Because I can definitely see why. How the fact of the matter is, though, is that the actual Peggy system is now going to be Peggy 3 as opposed to Peggy 7. Just because I don't think there's any much fears or anything like that. Like, for instance, spiders or zombies or whatever. But even then, the only thing is kind of spooky, though, is the forms of Boo's House track. Which even then, I haven't really seen that much of that gameplay footage yet, up until next month, whenever that game comes out. And even then, we'll see what happens there when that time comes. So, anyways, aside from that, though, there's not much else I can speak of, I'm afraid, other than the fact that, well, today, I've now finally managed to get myself Klonoa Daughter Phantom Mile for the PlayStation 1, and in fact, it did manage to come in with, point-blank demo disc, which I was going to test that out, but that game utilizes the forms of the light gun controller, which I don't seem to have at the moment, and I really don't think that the PlayStation 3 version doesn't support light gun controller or something like that, because it usually utilizes the original cord plug to the forms of the light gun and stuff. So, what? The announcer doesn't tell me of the avoiding innovation sworn or some kind, or even that is because of how the fact that I seem to almost got hit by the swarms of bees and stuff. So, oh well, whatever. So anyways, let's go use the tornado on Ooh La La, just in case if we can able to actually catch up or what have you. But either way, she's really speeding things up or what have you, although she did got me back. But either way though, let's just go ahead and alright. Alright, so there we go. So even then, we don't have to like keep on bashing to those walls and anything like that, so yeah. Excuse me about that, sorry about that. So, anyways, as I said before, that I've finally managed to get myself Klonoa Daughter Phantom Mile for the PlayStation 1, specifically the physical version, just because of how the fact that I was really hoping that that game will actually run very well on my PlayStation 3. Well, at least in terms of the forms of the, unlike the digital version, that it seems to able to lag. Like, for instance, the actual game footage doesn't run very well on my PlayStation 3, the UK version of that digital download version, and especially noticeable with that hoarse sound issues. So, yeah, kinda like how he did on my Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sega Mega Drive after all. But anyways though, as you can see right there, I've managed to sadly go into 3rd place just because, well, I just simply keep on getting owned by any other players. So, specifically Vice and Ooh La La. So, yeah, I just cannot even believe I just actually lost by that, so... But I'm still in the lead at the moment, but the only thing I'm really worried about is the forms of the latest, or the final 2 tracks coming up. See, for now, next up on the actual Arcade Cup is the forms of Roulette Road on Mirror version. And sadly to say, I have no any other luck with the forms of the actual bonus chance roulette, so... Kind of sucks though, but even then, no, that's besides the point. Seriously, let's get this thing started, shall we? Still no sign of the forms of Cap King 74 just yet though, because although he still carry on doing Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I'm sure enough he still needs to get back into it before he starts to able to move on to the forms of the next Let's Play. In fact, it's been about a couple of months ago since I think last video that he did upload it actually was actually by the forms of nearly towards the end of 2018, so he hasn't uploaded anything on 2019 so far, which, unlike in our channel though, that we seem to upload these videos continuously. Some exceptions, because even then though, because I was really busy going out somewhere, and especially noticeable with the forms of like other things is worth mentioning, like, for instance, like, busy playing some other stuff, like, as far as we've already mentioned about this like countless amount of times in the forms of the past few Mario videos, we did busy playing through like Kingdom Hearts 3 and stuff like that, which even then I'm really excited about that, potentially speaking of such. But anyways though, let's go ahead and just concentrate on this game right about now, and even then though, that the only players we need to worry about though still is of course Vice, and especially noticeable with Ooh La La, which by the way, Vice, that's yeah, I see that right there. So yeah, quite surprised about this actually, because even then, that we gone at the end of, you know, the Grand Prix mode of this particular Let's Play, and after this, then, you know, oh, eyes on the road. Okay, I think that's what happens if you manage to look on the behind position right there, and then that way you can get yourselves eyes on the road achievements. Even then though, this means, in order to actually do this though, is the fact that you need to toss the item from behind, but at the same time, you need to look behind. So even then though, that in order to actually do that though, is by simply we need to press the X button, assuming if you ever play this on the Xbox 360 version, and then once you're done with that, then you can get yourselves your achievements. So pretty swell, I have to say so. Anyway, so Twister, so anyways, let's go ahead and just hopefully try to shoot it from behind, but of course computer players will always attempt to really ignore my item from the start. Well, aside from the forms of like some players from behind, well, despite the fact that this is still on hard mode, so even though there's not much else to really say about this here, I believe, as far as I can remember correctly, with the forms of the actual trophies colors, in order to actually get full color about the forms of every single trophies, is that I'm guessing, if I may be right about this, is that you have to go through all this Grand Prix mode with expert difficulty, which means that if you could tell by the forms of the actual like the Emerald Cup, that's normally the actual like Emerald color was normally green, which it doesn't happen on my run through on the hard mode of that particular cup. I think what happens is the fact that in order to actually get a full color experience, that you need to able to actually just, you know, complete the cup within expert difficulty, which I probably not will do that unless if I play this on my own time. Specifically, if I get a chance to able to actually just complete this version, or in this case, if I got enough cash for the time, then I can able to actually repurchase the game again, but this time on the PlayStation 3. But not on the PlayStation Vita though, although this might be the only opportunities because of how the fact this is the only Sonic game to be released on the PlayStation Vita. Well, at least to be more specifically, the actual main PlayStation Vita handheld console. Unlike the PSP, that does only have like, I would say 3 games, because of the Sega Mega Drive collection was included, by the forms of like when Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 was included, and I believe Sonic Spinball as well, although I may be wrong. But even then though, let's just move on to the forms of the final track in the whole entire game, and we didn't get anything after this. So, but hopefully we're able to actually get enough chance to do this continuously until when we move on to the true final video of this Let's Play, by simply we need to go for that, you know, the DLC course, of course, or in this case, that DLC track. So, here we go, folks, onto the Egg Hangar, or the Death Egg Zone, for the final time. But this time around, though, the course itself, as to be expected, is completely mirrored. And as usual, the Cosmic Fall music is still on playing, and until whenever I get back into Shadow the Hedgehog until next week, well, in this case, by the forms of next Monday, in this case, by the forms of the 8th of April, then hopefully I can able to actually finish that Let's Play in time as well, and just in case if we can able to do more sets of Let's Plays, specifically the Klonoa game series, especially noticeable with the actual proper proper Let's Plays of Pac-Man World Series. So even then though, like, for instance, we might do Pac-Man World 1 for the PlayStation, and at the same week, that, well, specifically until next month or so, and then basically that some toys can able to do Pac-Man World 1, and some other toys can do no, not Pac-Man, Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, for depends on what day system they're gonna go for, because I think we'll mention more details about the day system of the uploading daily basis until whenever we get to next year. That we'll mention more details onto that whenever we get to 2020, so don't expect things too much about it, but even then though, we'll find things out by then. So anyways though, but again, I'll give my final thoughts of this game after whenever I do manage to able to show off the DLC track, which even then though, that would happen tomorrow, so generally speaking, that's all I can really think about for the time. So, and another thing is what I'm pointing out right away is the fact that recently I've managed to able to actually just send a message to the forms of the game Speedster about the fact the matter is though that I did send him about the forms of the Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games coming to the Nintendo Switch at some point in this winter, or in this case by the forms of later down in this year, which even then it could be a possibilities of the forms of something a little bit more Christmassy or something like that. Well, depending if of how the fact that, well, the E3 is about to be getting closer to release. Well, at least in terms of the forms of like some announcements to make, and especially noticeable with just basically pretty much everything we can able to expect also. So anyways, and I suppose the final thing I just want to mention, although before I mention more on that, when I did send him a message about this, and he was actually like really liking my our message from now on, because even then, because he really do miss this series since the disappointing Rio 2016 game, because even then, while I certainly don't find the game to be all that awful or anything, it's just that the amount of content is pretty lackluster, especially with the forms of like missing some dream events, and especially noticeable with, well, you can't able to actually play as the new characters in every single event. You always have to stuck with the forms of the same 21 characters in the past few entries. Well, at least ever since in the Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver 2010. So, generally speaking of such, is the fact that Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games for the Wii and the Nintendo DS, that those two versions of the game itself is going to be almost 10 years older during the likes of later down in this year, specifically when it gets to like the halfway point of that specific day. I think that game did originally came out on October 2009. Jeez, time really does fly, doesn't it? Especially noticeable with how the fact of the matter is though, is that you know how recently that how the fact that, well, eventually when it gets to April at some time, well, to be more specifically the end of April, basically Pikmin 2 for the Nintendo Wii, specifically for the UK's release, and especially noticeable with the Japan's release, might actually become 10 years old for the Nintendo Wii version of that game, including 15 years old on the GameCube version. So, but again, it's gonna be like really something else, I'm telling you. And yeah, that's as far as I can say about it here. And the final thing I want to mention is the fact that, well, oh, we actually got another achievement right there, which is Nomad, which is basically the handheld Mega Drive or Mega Genesis or something. It's hard to explain. Oh, we got another achievement, Take Ages. And, oh, the third and the final run. Okay. Alright then, so, yeah, 3 achievements all in one go. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Even though, sadly to say that we don't seem to get that much experience points for Sonic though. But that's okay though, because we'll take it as it is. So, anyways though, that concludes the forms of every single cups of the forms of the Grand Prix mode. So even then though, yeah, I'm actually quite surprised about the fact that we actually come towards the end of this mode. So even then though, and we actually unlock the final track in the game, and I think that pretty much does it by the forms of every single unlockables, including the final character we can actually unlock. And that, if you can tell by the forms of the intro cutscene of the game, I think we might actually get an opportunity that we're actually going to be unlocking Dr. Eggman. So, but again, it's kind of weird because you normally get him from the start, from the first game, but now in this game that you do need to unlock him. I'm not sure about Team Sonic Racing though, but we'll mention more on that whenever we get to that Let's Play at some point in 2020. So, specifically on the Nintendo Switch version. So even then, position-wise, BD Joe was in 3rd place, Vice, he's in 2nd place, and myself, such as Sonic the Hedgehog, now in 1st place, and able to claim the actual trophy of the Classics Cup of the mirror version of that particular track itself, or that cup I should say. So anyways though, and then as soon as we're done with the award ceremony, then obviously we got ourselves the final unlockable character, which is Dr. Eggman. So yeah, fantastic at the same time. So even then though, yes, that was it for the Grand Prix. So even then though, that's, once again, I did have a good run, although except by the forms of the 2nd track though, just because I managed to come down in 3rd place. But that's okay though, because at the end of the day, I did have some fun times here and there though, but it's just that computer players are pretty much goes all over the place sometimes, especially with their behaving and stuff, and especially noticeable with the folks of like, well, in our Emerald Cup on the mirror version of that cup, what happens is that my controller is running out of batteries on my Xbox 360 controller, but even then, I kinda wish if I just had a charger cord for that, but I don't have one of those sadly. So even then, that was it for the Grand Prix mode of this game. See, Fernando, yeah, I guess we're ending things off at this point right there. So join me next time on the grand finale of this game's Let's Play of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now will have to be by the forms of the extra video by showing off by the forms of the DLC track that you get from the limited edition of the game, or in this case the special edition if you ever purchased this on the Wii U, and that was the forms of the Outrun Bay track DLC course. So see you guys then. Later fellas.